DayZ isn't just a survival game. It's a trial by fire. Zombies, hunger, thirst, and the cold. And yes, other players will try to kill you. Every decision matters. Every life is different. And dying, well, it's just part of the game. If you like tense, strategic, chaotic survival, this might just be the game that keeps you up all night. So I've got a confession to make. I've always loved craft survival games. There's something about scraping together food, building a base, and surviving against the odds that hooks me every time. But truth be told, I've always found games like Rust quite intimidating. The moment you throw the PvP element into the mix, that casual chop a tree down and build a hut vibe turns into something much scarier. Suddenly, you're not just fighting off hunger and the cold. You're wondering if that guy in the distance is waving at you or pointing a rifle at you. And that's where today's review comes in. We're talking about DayZ, a game that takes that chilled craft survival formula and cranks the fear factor right up. Is it the ultimate, oh, one more go game? Well, let's put it this way. After what felt like 5 minutes of looting, I'd realised I'd sunk hours into it without even noticing. I actually got pulled into DayZ thanks to a mate who's been streaming it live on Twitch, link below. Watching him die over and over and over again made me think, surely it can't be that hard. Well, famous last words. As it was part of the free games for August on PlayStation Plus, I had to put it on download. After all, free is our favourite price. I booted it up on the PS5, which is technically the PS4 version since there's no next-gen update, and dove in with no prior DayZ experience beyond watching a few hours of my friend suffer. What I found was a brutal, addictive, survival sandbox where literally everything wants you dead. The main thing you'll do in DayZ is survive. From the moment you spawn, you're juggling multiple threats: zombies, other players, and your own hunger, thirst, and temperature. Death is inevitable, so you need to accept it and learn from it. Your first few runs will mostly be trial and error. You'll start with almost nothing, so scavenging becomes your lifeline: food, clothing, weapons, and even small items that might save your life later. Early on, your main focus is figuring out how to fight off zombies safely. A good tactic is to raise your guard, step back when they swing, and then attack once they hit the ground. Never take on more than you can handle. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Every movement, every looting session, every encounter matters. Rushing in will usually get you killed. If you're a fan of survival or craft survival games, it's fun from the very first minute. You're immediately immersed in tense situations, running, scavenging, and even deciding where to go next. The constant pressure of your survival stats ticking down keeps you engaged from the get-go. The loop feels rewarding even when you die. Looking back, most of my deaths were just silly mistakes or moments of overconfidence. And because DayZ just respawns you, it never feels punishing enough to quit. It keeps you trying again. No two runs are ever the same. Sometimes you'll stumble across better loot or weapons. Other times you'll find everything you need to build a car. It's this unpredictability that keeps every playthrough feeling fresh and strategic. The main hurdle for new or returning players is getting comfortable with dying. Once you accept that death is part of the experience and understand how the loot spawns and what to prioritize, picking the game back up becomes straightforward. The first few hours feel overwhelming, but as you learn the map, the spawn logic, and how to manage your stats, everything starts to click. I've been hooked since my first session, constantly thinking about how to optimize my next run, which routes to take, and how to survive just a little longer each time. DayZ has a slow and steady build-up that rewards patience, observation, and planning. And once you get into that rhythm, that game becomes one of those just one more run experiences that stick with you. Now, here's the thing. DayZ doesn't hand you progression in the traditional sense. There are no levels, no skill trees, no XP bars. What you get instead is knowledge. That knowledge that at some point the game will chew you up and spit you out. But next time, you'll be better prepared. Each life becomes its own story. Maybe you made it inland, found military gear. Maybe you died of food poisoning after eating a rotten pear. Yes, I did that, and no, I don't recommend it. But whatever happens, you learn a little more each time. That knowledge becomes your progression, and in a weird way, it's more satisfying than any cosmetic unlocks or grindy reward system. It scratches that same dopamine itch that Battle Royales used to give me, but at a slower, more deliberate pace. There's no drop in, die in 20 seconds, queue up again. Here, every life is its own journey, and the longer you last, the higher the stakes feel. When it comes to controls and mechanics, I've got to be honest, playing DayZ on a controller can be a bit of a headache. Inventory management feels clunky, and trying to pick up loot with any speed is awkward. If you have the option, I'd 100% recommend plugging a mouse and keyboard in. It just feels fluid and smooth, especially if you're juggling gear, weapons, and food. Looting itself works in a way that feels familiar if you've played PUBG. You bring up the inventory and everything in a short radius can be grabbed. It's logical, but it does take some getting used to at first. Speaking of PUBG, it's no coincidence that DayZ feels familiar. The game started as a mod for Arma 2, focused on realistic survival. Then Bruce Green developed the Battle Royale mode that eventually became PUBG. The gunplay does feel a little dated, so early on you're more likely sticking to melee weapons and fists while you get used to the hang of things. Here's a tip: never fight more than one zombie at a time unless you like a chaotic death. And yes, there will always be the option to cheese a little. Hitting zombies through a window works surprisingly well. Looting does take a bit of patience. Most buildings only have a couple of items to grab, but after a few runs you'll start noticing patterns: guns in police station, knives in kitchens, and so on. The more you play, the more you'll understand the spawn logic. Better gear, of course, is further inland. Army bases, airfields, but getting there is a whole adventure in itself. For players who really want to master the game, there's plenty of depth. You'll start on the coast where the lower tier loot is easy to find and encounters with other players are frequent. The further inland you go, the higher the loot tier, but the fewer players you'll meet, which means you can spend hours grinding only to die instantly to someone better equipped. If vanilla servers feel too brutal, there are custom servers where loot is adjusted, or even a free-for-all server where you can practice gunplay without risking a full survival run. Strategy is everything in DayZ. Literally everything wants to kill you. You need food, water, and appropriate clothing. You must plan when to move. Rain can get you soaked and cold, cutting your chances of survival. Night can be pitch black, forcing you to light a fire and hide indoors. You must manage injuries, sickness, infection, and the constant threat of zombies. And then there's the real players, who can be friendly or downright terrifying. It's not about if something will get you, it's about when. Some of the mechanics that really make DayZ stand out are deceptively simple. Every piece of clothing you pick up has stats, thermal protection, and inventory slots. Early on, you're constantly balancing whether to stay warm or carry enough loot. It's slow paced at first, which can become overwhelming, but as soon as you get the hang of it, things start clicking. This isn't a game you can just sprint through, it's a marathon. The slow build is part of the charm. And yes, it's clunky, but in a way that adds character. Reloading a gun, you eject the magazine manually and load it. It feels authentic, even if it's a little fiddly. One important note: don't expect to load in with friends and team up straight away. DayZ is first and foremost a survival game. It took me about 5 hours to meet up with a buddy. Sure, you can choose to spawn in the same location, but I'd strongly recommend learning the fundamentals first. Your group is only as strong as the weakest link, and if someone's stats are low or they haven't managed their resources properly, the whole team suffers. Resources are limited, so cooperation is important, but only after you've learned to survive on your own. When it comes to the world of DayZ, the first thing you'll notice is just how massive Chinoris is. I've put about 20 hours into the game so far, and I've barely scratched the surface. There are actually 3 official maps, plus a ton of community-made maps via the Steam Workshop. So there's plenty of variety if you want to explore. But here's the catch: on official servers, you'll get absolutely nothing telling you where you are. You drop in blind, and as a new player, that can be overwhelming. At first I was wandering for what felt like hours, unsure of which way was north and how to find the nearest town. My advice: keep the iSurvive map handy on a second screen or phone. It's a lifesaver. Some custom servers give you a map in your pocket, which makes survival a lot less stressful, at least until you want to go hardcore. The map itself is beautifully crafted. Every town, village, and landmark feels distinct. Even though the building models are reused in patterns, you'll quickly notice that your focus is less on interior design and more about scanning for loot, zombies, and players. But the environment still adds a ton to the atmosphere. The day-night cycle and the weather changes enhance the immersion perfectly. One moment you're running through a sunny village, the next a storm rolls in, visibility drops, and the zombies feel even more threatening. It's this kind of subtle detail that keeps you on edge, even if you don't consciously think about it. Now yes, the visuals are a little dated. Sometimes the undergrowth won't render in right away, and rain falls in chunks that looks a bit blocky, but honestly, that's easy to forgive. The gameplay and the survival tension make up for it. Remember, this game is 7 years old, so don't expect the graphics to compete with 2025 releases. That said, it still looks fantastic for its age, unlike me, and the world feels alive in a way that really pulls you in. Overall, the map and environments in DayZ aren't just backdrops, they're active part of the gameplay. You're constantly navigating, planning your route, and reacting to whatever the world throws at you, which makes exploration both fun and tense. And the sheer size and design of the maps give you all the variety you need to get lost for hours, literally and figuratively. I just wanted to take a moment to say, if you're liking this review and finding it useful, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It really helps the channel grow and will enable you to find your way back here for future reviews. Thank you. One of the things that really stands out in DayZ is the soundscape. From the moment you spawn in, audio plays a huge role in keeping you on edge. You can hear zombies from a mile away. Their screams as they spot you will make your heart jump every single time. Footsteps, gun reloads, distant shouts from other players. It all adds up to the constant tension that keeps you alert. And yes, your own character's occasional screams as you die, which will happen a lot, are a harsh but hilarious reminder that survival is not easy. The game audio doesn't just add tension, it actually enhances gameplay. Being able to hear zombies approaching or other players nearby gives you a strategic edge. It blends perfectly with the visuals, making the world feel alive and dangerous. And while the soundtrack itself isn't something you'll hum later, it's subtle, atmospheric and almost invisible. It works perfectly to keep you immersed. A big thing to note, no mic, no life isn't just a meme in DayZ. Communication, or lack of it, can literally be the difference between surviving a raid or getting ambushed by other players. Most of your focus is staying alive, managing hunger, and finding food, so the soundscape acts as a natural layer that never pulls you out of that experience. In terms of polish, I didn't notice any audio bugs or annoying issues during my playtime, which is impressive for a game this big and tense. Everything sounds just as it should, which is critical when a single scream or gunshot can mean your demise. When it comes to servers, DayZ actually performs pretty well. On official servers, I didn't run into any disconnects or major stability issues, which is impressive for a game this size. The only thing to be aware of is a server refresh every few hours. Usually you get plenty of warning, but if you're in the middle of a tense moment, like we were, sneaking into a police station and spotting another squad outside, it can be a little frustrating. Those few minutes of downtime had us spamming the refresh button like maniacs, just to get back in so we could defend ourselves. As for technical quirks, the main issue I noticed on PlayStation was the occasional screen tearing, usually after an hour or two, or after dying and rejoining a server. It wasn't game breaking, and interestingly it seems less noticeable on a controller, so maybe it's just playing mouse and keyboard on the PlayStation. It could be a memory leak issue, but nothing that really ruined the experience. Across platforms, DayZ runs smoothly on PS5, and from what I've seen, performance is consistent with no huge hiccups. The dev team also release patches every few months, steadily improving stability and addressing issues as they arise. Does this affect competitiveness or fun? Honestly, not really. This isn't a game about high-octane action. It's about surviving. Sure, low frame rates and a little screen tearing can give you a headache, but a quick game reset usually fixes it. And it doesn't take away from the thrill of just trying to stay alive in a world where everything wants you dead. The community in DayZ is a mixed bag, and honestly, a lot of it comes down to whether you've got a mic. When I jumped in during the free PlayStation period, there were a ton of new players joining at the same time, which made things a lot smoother. But like any survival game with PvP elements, you'll run into toxic players. We even came across a well-geared player just cruising up and down the coast, taking out fresh spawns. Not sure what the thrill was there, but hey, each to their own, right? Playing solo with friends is an interesting balance. DayZ isn't really a multiplayer game in the traditional sense. You're not automatically spawning with your squad. If you try to manage other players too early, it can slow you down. And in DayZ, standing still is basically asking to die. That said, running around with friends definitely ups the fun factor. You can strategize, cover each other, and laugh at ridiculous ways you die together. There aren't really any tools to make teaming up easily. You can technically cheese it to spawn near a friend, but you'll likely be at a disadvantage. Early game resources are limited, so it's all about making most of what you've got. From what I've seen, people are creating their own stories and content, and the survival first focus means every session can feel fresh. Not everyone is out to kill you, but you'll definitely meet some who are, which adds to the tension and keeps you on your toes. When it comes to time investment, DayZ has that sneaky, just one more run feeling. Honestly, I can see myself sinking a lot of hours into this. Every session ends with the thought, oh come on, one more life, let's just loot this town before logging off. Even after 20 plus hours, I feel like I'm only just starting to scratch the surface. I've only driven a car once, and there's still so much further inland I want to explore for better, higher tier loot. Each life teaches you a little more about resource management, looting, and surviving against both zombies and players. Does it evolve enough to keep you coming back? Absolutely. Each run feels completely different from the last. There are no stories to complete, no final bosses, just the ticking clock of survival. Sure, it's frustrating when you lose everything, but that's part of the cycle of what can I do better next time? How can I survive longer? How do I get back to that sweet spot faster? That push keeps you coming back again and again. As for value for money, I got lucky with it being free on PlayStation Plus, but it sits around £40 on Steam and $47 on the PlayStation Store. It is also included in the Xbox Game Pass subscription. If you grabbed it free or part of a subscription, definitely give it a go, especially if you're a fan of craft survivals. What makes DayZ stand out compared to other competitors is the PvP element. Everything is out to kill you, not just zombies but real players as well. That tension adds a layer of thrill that most other survival games don't quite hit. It's one of the hardest, most memorable craft survivals I've ever played. Every decision counts, and everything can go wrong in an instant. Would I recommend it now? For a £40 plus price tag on a 7-year-old game, I'd say it's a tough sell. It's not something you casually pick up. It takes patience, strategy, and a willingness to accept that death is part of the fun. But if slower paced, hardcore survivals is your kind of game, it's worth it. And personally, I see myself putting more than £40 worth of time into it, because once it clicks, it hooks you. What really stuck with me after playing DayZ, honestly, it was my brain whirring with strategies for the next run. That burning smile on my head, pure focus kicking in. I found myself thinking about the map, best spots for gear and food, and most importantly, how to stay alive. You don't need to check every single corner. Once you start to click with the game, you quickly learn where loot tends to spawn, and things become way more fluid. Did it meet my expectations? Actually, it exceeded them. I went from thinking I'd probably play this once or twice, maybe a session with the mates here and there, but DayZ has this subtle charm. From the outside, it seems simple, but once you're managing resources, looting gear, and feeling that steady progression, it hooks you. Even losing everything didn't kill my motivation. It just made me want to try again and improve. Would I recommend it? Definitely. Especially if you grabbed it through PlayStation Plus, or you have access to Game Pass. If you're not really into craft survival games, that £40 price tag is hard to justify. But in my opinion, this game is a gem. It gets under your skin. You'll become attached to your character, mourn their death, and yet you'll keep coming back for more and try and survive longer. It's addictive in the best way. What sets it apart from other games in the genre? Think Green Hell, but add real, unpredictable players. That PvP element turns every encounter into a tense moment. And for a game released in 2018 to still have a thriving player base, that's proof that they're doing something right. I've only explored a fraction of Generous in my 20 plus hours, and there are 2 other official maps. One is a DLC, waiting to be explored. A quick reminder, don't approach DayZ like a standard multiplayer game. Yes, you can see your friends, but survival is your first priority. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and trying to manage your stats and someone else's can be brutal. Team play works, but only if everyone is moving forward and chipping in. Resources are limited, the clock is ticking, and mistakes are punished, but that's part of the thrill. On my personal rating scale, I will give DayZ an all-nighter. It's one of those games where you sink hours into it, then think about it outside of the game. How to optimize your runs, what gear you'll need, and how to get better at combat. If you can plug a mouse and keyboard in, it'll make looting much smoother. So that's DayZ. I'd love to hear from you. Have you picked it up? Have you tried it? What were your thoughts? And if you've made it all the way through this review and found it useful, please like the video and consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you. This is so hard. I'm so cringy.